He's the jock.
And she's the journalist.
And you're listening to the J&J Broadcast. Welcome to your weekly Pick 6, where we go over the week's hottest sports topics. Max, there is so much good stuff to get to this week that I just want to jump right into it. I'm really curious to get your thoughts about Donald Trump's comments. I know he referenced to women in some very derogatory ways, talked about pulling their genitals, talked about kissing them without their permission, and said that was locker room talk. A lot of athletes spoke out about it. What was your thoughts? What was your reaction to that?
I thought it was disgusting how he tried to say that was locker room banter when you saw him on multiple different occasions making these type of statements. It really bothered me because I've been in locker rooms for a very long time, and I've heard guys say things, but nothing to that degree and in that type of description. Now, I don't know what locker rooms he's hanging around, but I'm in a pretty testosterone-charged locker room, playing in the NFL and going through football through the various levels. And stuff I heard him say I hadn't heard in a locker room.
But if you take out the parts about the sexual assault, if you subtract that and you talk about the parts where he essentially said he made a move on Billy Bush's coworker, Nancy O'Dell, and essentially sexually harassed her, they pretty much objectified women. Max, do you think some of the athletes are overreacting? Because let's not act like there is an off-color commentary that happens in locker rooms, especially regarding women.
More often than not, as an athlete, you're being pursued as opposed to pursuer. There is some type of element, like if there's a chick a guy's trying to holler at, he'll talk to it, but he's still not going to talk, I think, that derogatorily towards a woman, even when he is trying to chase her, especially if he's trying to let guys know that he's trying to holler at this chick. So that's where it's like, really? I'm like, this is an old guy, and I'm like, what locker room have you been in where that's locker room banter? You were on a bus. Look, the golf locker room I know is not like that. So I'm just trying to figure out how he felt he could try and blame this. Pretty much, it's like he was trying to blame it on the athletic culture.
Right. I mean, there's no question that it was a poor excuse. And I'll say this, as a woman who's covered sports professionally for the past 13 years and been around it even much longer than that, I would definitely say that there were moments in my career where I definitely felt objectified in a locker room. But I will also say I think it's gotten a lot better over time. I mean, locker rooms in general now are much more corporate on the professional level, at least when the media is in the room. And obviously in a lot of colleges, you can't even go into the locker rooms, which I think a lot of us are actually grateful for. We don't really want to be there anyway.
Yeah.
So, but I'm just curious from your perspective, how much do you think locker rooms have changed in the last 15 years?
I think locker rooms have changed a lot. I think you kind of hit it on the head that locker rooms have become cleaner and more conscious of people around them. It's not such what people feel an insulated silo where you could just say or be whatever. But I haven't really seen guys really change. Obviously the decorum with being in the professional ranks and having women in the locker room was an adjustment when I first got into the league, but some of the situations like the Jets situation and Brett Favre and all that kind of stuff. But I feel like most of the locker rooms, like if you are talking, it's only between your friends in a small group, and you're not talking broadly across the locker room about something or making any type of derogatory statements. I think more of it's just argument over sports in general. With that, you don't see that as much once the media is in the locker room. So I think it has changed, but I don't think it's really changed that much because I think guys are conscious and cognizant of who's around them.
That's good.
Let's talk about NBA. Let's go to a specific sport in general. So Chris Bosh, even though every doctor has told him he can't play basketball, he still feels this need. Do you think it's selfish on his part to want to continue to pursue an NBA career, even with all of these threats of blood clots and doctors' advisement against it?
I think more than selfish, it's really sad. I thought that some of his comments where he said, this is what I was put on this earth to do, to play basketball. In my mind, I'm like, once you get married and you have children and you get older and your life, you would hope expands to things beyond just, what you do. At some point, you learn that what you do is not who you are. And I feel like he hasn't really made that distinction. And it's sad because, whether he plays or not, he's still getting $60+ million. I'm like, can't you find some happiness in just, having some downtime for maybe the first time in your life for years, hang out with your family, take trips, enjoy the success that you've worked so hard to amass. And I understand as an athlete, you want to compete, but at some point you have to know that it comes to an end, and you have to make your peace with that. And I don't feel like he's got any peace with letting it go.
I can completely sympathize with Chris Bosh on this. It's tough, especially when you feel you have more to give to this game. And when you go out because of a medical issue and not because of your own doing, it's very tough because you have to think about when he last played, Chris Bosh was on an all-star pace as far as the points and the rebounds and the way he was playing with his team. He was a leader, and then of course the blood clots happened and it sidelined him. So to then work all this way to hopefully get back to playing and then to be told you can't play, it's a devastating blow, especially when you feel that you haven't hit your peak yet, that you're in your prime of your NBA career, and to have you told no when you've never been told no in your life, it's a very tough thing to deal with. And I think I can appreciate and understand where he's coming from, but at the same time, he has to also consider what the long-term health goals are, and it's going to take time. I mean, it took me almost 2 years before I finally was able to accept and let football go and not be a commanding part of my life, because it's something that I've been a part of since I was a kid, just like him.
Right. Yeah, I can understand that. And a lot of guys never get to reach the peak of winning championships. Not to say that that's the cure-all for everything, but you have to look at what you've been able to amass in comparison to a lot of guys that don't even make it to that level. So in that respect, you've had a good career. You've had a good run.
Yeah, he's had a good run, but it's going to take a year to 2 years before you can actually sit back and reflect. Take the blinders off. You've had blinders on for, just call it, 20 years of your life, where you've been driven towards a goal. You've had a regimen in your life, and then to all of a sudden have that snatched away, have the blinder pulled off of you, and you lose your goal that you had always been attaining, it's very tough. And then you have to reprioritize your life. You have to recommit to your family, because you're coming to your family in a different capacity than what you were. And you have to integrate back into civilian life, so to speak. Not to take a military term or try and water it down, but you have to now learn how to be a former player and not an active player. And your schedule and regiment also have to dictate that. But speaking of next careers, how about this? What would you like to see Tiger Woods do as his next career move?
I would like to see Tiger Woods become a media consultant, because he is so good at not answering questions. And I think he would be excellent at teaching others his wizardry of, ducking and weaving and essentially not answering anything and being the most private person on the face of the earth. So I think that would be a good look for him. What about you?
Oh, my God. Him being like Terry Crews, the odor blocker, the Old Spice commercial. Block, 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 block.
I am blocking all day, every day.
Yeah. I'd like to see him become a movie producer.
Okay.
Work in Hollywood and finance all these big budget films. And I'd love him to do just all like blaxploitation movies. I mean, if we're going to go on the well-wishing, I would love to see, because, when you read the credits to executive producer, Tiger Woods? What?
So just for the shock factor.
Just for the shock factor.
So could you see him doing something like Django?
Oh, Django Unchained? Yeah, I could. I can see. You know what? I can see. I'd like to see it like Luke Cage, the Netflix series.
Oh God.
That's about as raw as you can get. Some people's heads might explode during that scene. That's what I want to see. That's what I want to see. Him be a producer, or just like the random actor, kind of like Stan Lee, how he just makes a cameo randomly in the Marvel movies, as some random character. Have him stand in random black films as like that character.
Well, I know you mentioned people's heads exploding. So speaking of that, Colin Kaepernick is going to be starting for the 49ers. And I'm sure a lot of heads are going to be exploding. People that have not been in agreement with his protest, obviously. So how do you think people are going to react to him?
I think it's going to be a very polarizing welcome for him. You're going to have some who are going to be in total agreement, and then some that are not. Some that are just going to be completely against it. You're going to probably see some more jerseys burned. But I think the biggest thing is going to be how Kaepernick does as a starter is going to define him more so than the fact that he is starting. Because if he goes out and plays like crap, it's only going to justify the people who don't like him. And if he goes out and does well, the people who support him is going to like them. So it's going to be, regardless, however he plays, so one side's going to be happy and one side's going to be mad. So it is what it is. So as long as he goes out there and just does what he can do and just let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah, I think people are going to kind of be over it by now. And I say that with respect to the fact that people are armchair activists for exactly 3 minutes, and then they're on to the next issue. I mean, as angry as people are going to be, I think people can only hold their anger for so long before they're just on to the next situation. So I don't know. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. I agree with you in the sense of, at this point in the discussion, people are going to care more about how he performs and him taking a knee or sitting down or linking arms or anything else like that. Because at this point, everybody's kind of, done it. So it's not a new situation.
Yeah, no, I get you. I'm hoping this is just all about football. That'd be a great thing to talk about. Just football.
Sure.
But here, for our last question to round it up, will Jerry Jones pull the plug on Tony Romo if he's healthy? Oh.
Yes. I think he will. I know those are big words because Jerry Jones has been like Tony Romo's bae. Like, just, ride or die. He is with him through thick and thin. But I think at this point, when you look at how the Cowboys are performing, they're doing well. They're sitting on top of the NFC East right now, the 4-1, with a rookie quarterback. And not just Dak Prescott, but I think the synergy between Dak and Ezekiel Elliott is something that they really want to build on. And I just don't see where you would want to knock a good thing when it's actually working. And we've already seen with Tony Romo, he's always been able to start strong. Finishing is not – December is usually about the time where we start seeing the drop-off. But I think this might be the last go-round for Tony Romo.
But he's got so much money promised from the Cowboys. If it's healthy, how do you not put that product on the field? But here's the thing. I am in total agreement with you, because why mess up the synergy and the system that you have in place and is proving it's been successful? If Dak struggles or he starts to get on like a 1 or 2 game slide where he's not performing up to level and they're losing games, I think that's when you can implement a Tony Romo. But I think if you're winning and you're on top, don't just pull the cord on Dak Prescott, because we already know that Dak Prescott's your future. So why would you stunt the learning curve for this young man? And like you said, he has a great synergy not only with Ezekiel Elliott in the backfield, but the entire team. The offensive line is playing better because Dak is back there and because he is mobile when he needs to be. Whereas Tony, if he gets mobile, he gets crippled. So that's where I think, you have to toe that line. And I get if there is a negative, then I see you pull Dak. But until then, I think you say, hey, Tony, just keep resting up. There's the playoff push potentially, especially you don't know how the season is going to end. Where we seed in this, I think he could be more useful at that situation, because when it comes to time where you need to score a lot of points, that's what Tony Romo's best at. But as far as the way that they're playing, the ball control, the decisive decision-making, getting the ball out quick, I think Dak excels at that, and he can manage this team just fine. Well, we've hit the end of another Pick 6 broadcast. Be sure to like us on Facebook @JockandJournalist and follow us on Twitter @JockJournalist. Thanks for listening, and tune in next week.